Alright guys, welcome to VALORANT News. The Red Bull Homegrounds concludes last night. G2 take a dominant victory against NRG in the grand finals, again reigning victorious on American soil despite playing the reigning world champions in the grand final. But what does it mean for these respective rosters, especially G2? Big drama continuing last night as to exactly what they're going to do next and why they made this move in the first place, minus Gen.G plus Baby and whether that was their initial intention anyway. Some rumours that actually they were planning a different change, but it ended up in this way and they're still lifting some trophies. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Lots to get into today, starting with a couple of roster things. We saw this one from Les here, thanking Vitality for the time that he had with the team. There were some questions. Did he want to stay? Was he ready to go? Did he want to leave and go back to the Americas? We think that he might well go to crew with Sadak. That's kind of the big rumour lately, to try and reunite at least some of that former Loud glory on the crew esports lineup. But yeah, just thought it was interesting that Les said it was definitely a challenge for me to go there, perform and become a champion outside of my comfort zone, but I think that it's time to come back, he says. So whether he was forced to or whether he decided to, the outcome is the same. And as Durka says, thanks for the year, the results weren't as good as we wanted, but I'm happy I got to play with you. Enjoy the palm trees and the sun. So Durka, of course, staying over there. This was also true for Keiko, right? He said that he didn't want to stay in Berlin, so he was one of the, he wanted to come to the Americas, right, and play with NRG, given the other options that he had, such as Fnatic. We talked about that over the last couple of days. But the Red Bull Homegrounds concluded in a pretty remarkable way. They ran an interesting, shall we say, show match here, because the teams, you might argue, were just a little bit lopsided. Team 10s played Team Ludwig, and okay, you might think, all right, well, if you're going to have 10s against Ludwig, you've got to have some sort of balancing in there. But, and look, it's not like Ludwig's team was bad. Oxy, Crashies, Tarek, Ludwig, and Vic, it's an okay team. But the 10s team was just absolutely stacked, right? Okay, it's Timmy, but you've got Demon 1, Sassy, 10s and Alpha. So, I mean, how many championships on that team? It's difficult even to count. So I thought it was pretty funny that they put this together. Demon 1 had a great map here, right? So again, he said that he was going to be out there in New York for the Homegrounds. Some questions continuing on. Is he going to get a team next year? Where's that going to be? What options are there on the table? We know that Envy still need a couple of players potentially. There have been various rumours as to what they're going to do. Is Demon 1 going to be a part of that? Is he not? Good questions, but these were the results of yesterday's show match. But of course, not the big match of the day. As Boaster says, bit of a shame that Fnatic went all that way to New York. They turn up for the tournament. They had fans, attends that wanted to watch them play. But at least they might have been able to get a signature, right? Because they did a fan meet with the various teams over the couple of days. But the grand finals gets underway. There were some crazy moments in it. I mean, it was already a 2-0 advantage. We've seen this before, right? Through the Astro War, and we see it again here from Leaf. So, like, absolutely unbelievable scenes. It happens again, and it was a 10-7 lead, and at that point, there was really no looking back for G2 in the grand final. So, look, NRG, they've made a roster change. There's no more SOM anymore. Is that their downfall, right? Do they need SOM? Was SOM the glue? Was SOM the key factor? Look, they made a solid run of the tournament. We know that G2 on domestic soil are just so good, right? They always win everything in the Americas. That does not seem to be changing. It's also one tournament doesn't tell you who the best team in the world is. It gives you a trend. You know, the best team in the world you see over the course of a season. NRG still made it to the finals, and they've got a new team, right? They brought in Keiko instead of SOM. There's obviously going to be some level of learning there, but so did G2, right? They also made a change. They brought in Baby Bay instead of Gen.G, controversially so, and it worked out very well, because they did not confirm going into this tournament whether Baby Bay was their full starter. Well, they did confirm it, and then they unconfirmed the confirmation. If you guys aren't familiar with this, let me just find the tweet up real quick. So G2 initially tweeted, I think we can see the original tweets. Yeah, here we go. Smeeg G2 is here to stay, introducing our Sentinel. Baby Bay moved to starter, which seemed to imply, beyond any doubt, that Baby Bay will be their full-time 5th player. But then they updated the tweet and said, he's back for the home grounds. So then it was like, well, is he to stay or is he to go? What's going on here, right? So as I said over the last couple of days, this win was going to be big for BabyBay, because if they did win this tournament, which they went on to do, then it's kind of difficult to drop him now, right? Like, you've just turned up, you've beaten the reigning world champions with a different player, but still, it's still a world championship winning squad, and they will still be very competitive, I imagine, this season, NRG. They've beaten them in the first grand finals and beaten them comfortably so. Okay, BabyBay wasn't massively positive or dropping crazy numbers, but you wouldn't expect that with his role on the team anyway. And G2 get the job done. The Corrode 13-10. That was on NRG's map pick. The split was then dominant. G2 destroyed them 13-4. Jorga mode 24-9. And then the final map that we saw there, the Pearl, especially after that one round, G2 then run away with it 13-7, and NRG have no gas left in the tank. So look, wasn't an especially close series in the end, and it's G2 that take the victory, and BabyBay will be understandably very satisfied with the result, because if his spot was to some degree under threat with some other options that maybe G2 are considering, it's difficult to imagine that they're going to do that now. But also, how do we get to this point? And still some other questions on that we will try to answer in a second. So as Leaf says, yeah, we lost to Zeta. So, remarkable, right? That Zeta did take some scalps in the early rounds, but then they got their revenge. Beat Cloud9 13-11, beat Fnatic 15-13. But then when they really got rolling, they started to bowl over the opposition. 2-0 Zeta, 3-0 NRG. Great practice, really, for these teams as well. As Keiko says, damn, need a bit more experience with the team. Didn't play to our full potential. All good, though. Had an amazing time this event. Again, the teams that made it the distance in this tournament, they will have definitely lots of positives to take away from it with all the practice that they got. As Scuba says, nice to play in front of our home crowds. Thanks to the fans. Second place, GG's to G2. Ethan says, came second place. They played well as usual. Thanks to the home grounds for inviting us. Small break, then back into work for next season. VALORANT, of course, pretty satisfied, right? Not too bad, eh? They just made a change, turned up to the tournament and dominated the finals. Trent says those guys are incredible. Thanks for bringing the energy. The team's already looking good, right? So this is interesting that Trent says the team's already looking good. Implies that that's the team, right? Now, look, Jonah P ain't coming back. The question is whether BabyBay was always going to be the full-time replacement. He does have a few words to say. The theme for us this event was resilience, and it showed from start to finish. We're your champions. The entire event was a huge test for us in the team, not only in the server, but out, because, of course, there were lots of words being said outside of the server as well, and for understandable reasons. We still have a long way to go, but this is the best possible start a 30-year-old Unk could have asked for. Love my teams, love the fans, love the haters too. Congratulations to these guys. So they walk away with a trophy. But it was quite interesting because they sat down on FNS's kind of post-match interview here. They talked a little bit with Keiko, talked a little bit with Marder and the NRG guys that, of course, FNS was rooting for. And he asked them a pretty, federal question, or whatever you want to say, about the current state of G2. Were they surprised in the changes that were made? And Marder says something kind of cryptic, really. I'm intrigued to your thoughts on it in the comments, but he says that was not the change they were meant to make. They'd heard that there was another change they were meant to make. Now, there were even some questions as to whether the man in the center of the stream, who then, had a slight smile on his face, so this, of course, being Keiko, whether maybe G2 wanted him at some point, and there were some questions on that. But if that was what Marder was implying, I don't know if he would have said it exactly the way that he did, because he said that as far as they understood, there was a different change that G2 were looking to make, and then that never happens, and as a result, then they ended up where they are.
What did you think, honestly, from the outside looking in about the Jonah P and then BabyBay thing?
I was
like
saying
all the
this
drama.
Okay, we were at dinner yesterday talking about it. From what I heard, that's not how it was supposed to go.
What?
Like,
what do you mean supposed to go?
That wasn't the roster move that was supposed to happen.
Oh, I see.
And then that happened, so I was very surprised. That's what I heard, though. That's what I heard.
Why are you speaking in, like...
I don't know if I want to say it.
Yeah, it can't leak.
It's that bad? Like, is it? It's not even bad. It's just, you don't know if you can say it. Okay.
I don't know if I can say it.
So interested to hear your theories in the comments below what this might be. Some questions, could it be one of those guys was going to leave, right? And I could see the argument behind that. We've seen it with other teams, notable players getting better offers, leaving the roster. So was it possible that someone else was going to get poached maybe, right? Because Trenton Valley, the rumor was signed relatively early. Look, was someone trying to poach them? Maybe. But there is also a theory that what if NRG were trying to poach Leaf, for example? They wanted him in instead after Som called it a day. And therefore, maybe the initial G2 plan was to have Jonah P and Baby Bay, but then times changed because, you know, I think this does kind of go back to, yeah, actually, as Batcave Gamer mentioned in the replies, this tweet from Baby Bay is still really strange, right? Because when the rumor was first coming out that Jonah P was going to be replaced by Baby Bay, and then he did this tweet with him and Baby Bay, and then, you know, especially this one in the replies here, you know, as I said the other day, I want to give Baby Bay the benefit of the doubt on this, but if he knew that he was replacing Jonah P, and that was always the plan, then it's just like a very odd thing to tweet, right? And I can't imagine Jonah's very happy about it. Now, is it plausible that actually when Baby Bay tweeted this, he thought that they were both going to be on the roster because someone else was going to go? Is it possible that in the early part of November, maybe Leaf or one of the other players was in conversations with a different team to potentially leave, and therefore the expectation was that both Jonah and Baby Bay would stay, but then that player actually ended up staying on the team, then the team had to make a decision between whether Baby Bay or Jonah P was going to stay, and they went for Baby Bay, so then Jonah P was gone. But it seemed like that was kind of a known thing before he did this tweet. So I still find that all a little bit confusing. But regardless, this is the team. And after winning this tournament, I don't imagine that's necessarily going to change all that much going forward. So that was the assessment there from the NRG guys. Intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Again, some discussion on G2 when they're in the US. They're rather good, right? And of course, the implication from Kojo is, okay, we'll see you in an international tournament. We'll see if you can still replicate it there. But yeah, no doubt that G2 will still be the team to beat, you would think, in the Americas the upcoming season, despite the fact that the NRG world champions are still in their region. But domestically, that team, whatever the roster, still reigns supreme for now. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
I agree with that.
Do I have permission to instigate?
Go for it.
So when you were playing pro, which teams did you blacklist from scrimming?
Oh.
Trick's team.
Huh?
Trick.
Why?
Oh, Mad Lions?
Yeah.
Oh,
Why?
that team was fucking pointless to scrim. I think they ended up on the list.
Artist literally slammed his desk and said, "I'm never playing these
But why?
horrible players again."
Like, what was the reason? They were just running through smokes?
They make every possible risky, high risk, low reward play you can think of.
I remember I was scrimming against them, and this is on Icebox. This is our first and last scrim against them.
Wait, on Sentinels?
Yeah. It was on Icebox, and their Sova had an op. He got a kill and just kept running forward.
Yeah, that's what
like
I mean.
he was fucking Excurate or some shit.
Yeah, they literally just play
Shout out to Kevin.
very individually, randomly.
And that was the only team you blacklisted?
No, we
There's more,
blacklisted
but
a
I
few
didn't see
more.
one I could think of.
That one was a solid one.